Rebel Force Radio apparel and accessories are now available on our website. Say it loud and say it proud with RFR t-shirts, hats, mugs, phone cases, water bottles, coffee mugs, pajamas, baby wear, stickers, buttons, even tie-dye. Sizes for men and women. Choose from cool colors and styles. Visit rebelforceradio.com and click on shop to get your RFR gear today.
May the Force be with you, bro.
Penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times. Star Wars #1.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Chut. Welcome, one and all. Boy, we have a great show. Fun show this week. Really fun. If you're a fan of the Bad Batch, like we are, you're going to be very interested. We've got Dee Bradley Baker, who is the Bad Batch. You watch the show and the credits. It's like Dee Bradley Baker as the Bad Batch. It's such a cool credit. Plus, we were treated. This is a big one for audio visual stuff that you want to make sure that you are a member of RFR All Access on the Patreon, because we're going to be taking a look at the new trailer that just dropped for Star Wars Visions, and we got a cast list to look at. Plus, you're not going to believe this. Yeah, Billy Mack making his debut as Lando Calrissian in a fan film, and not just any fan film. This is a action figure cast reenactment of the original Colin Trevorrow script for Episode 9, Duel of the Fates. Is this something? Billy Mack lending his talents. Plus, Taika Waititi, the runway is clear. He's free of all other projects beyond Star Wars. His next project is Star Wars, and he's talking a little bit about that. So we've got all that. And as I say, Dee Bradley Baker in the cantina. So great to have him as we just celebrated the end of the first season of The Bad Batch and celebrating the announcement of the second season, which will be coming to us next year. So much in store for you here at Rebel Force Radio, this week's show for August 20th, 2021. Grateful to be with you. Always happy to have you hanging out with us. And this guy, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. And I know there are a lot of Bad Batch fans out there. We got some great feedback this summer from people who are really into our Bad Batch after shows. And that's great, because me and Jason were really into them too. It was so much fun this summer to have that blast of Star Wars thrown at us via the Bad Batch. It was more fun than I expected, I have to be honest with you. At the beginning of the season, we weren't so sure if we were even going to do after shows for the Bad Batch every week.
That's right.
And we just were going to play it by ear. And after that first episode, we were fully convinced it was worth our time. And Omega turned out to be a great character. And the Bad Batch turned out to be a very likable crew. And sure, there are some times we felt like the overall narrative was spinning its wheels a little bit, but still savored every episode and really had a great time this summer. I can't think of any episodes I would say were really bad. That was a bad episode of the Bad Batch. I never said that. I never walked away from saying that, from an episode saying that.
No, so, I would sometimes go into the after shows thinking, I don't know what we're going to talk about. But the callers always did such a great job of bringing it. I would leave, I'd wrap these after shows thinking to myself, wow, that was a really good episode. There was a lot. I want to go back and rewatch that. So sometimes you just got to, hang out with your friends and run it down, run through it all. and you realize that there was a lot
all
more
about.
to it.
A lot of people said to me that they thought the after show made The Bad Batch better for them. It was just a better fan experience. And I agree. I feel the same way. Jason, you feel the same way?
For sure.
And, it's we're along for the ride just like you guys are. So that's really fulfilling to hear. And I'm looking forward to talking to Dee later in the show. Dee Bradley Baker, of course. What a great talent. Longtime friend of ours here at Rebel Force Radio. I feel so blessed that we have the opportunity to talk to him later in the show because he is a busy guy. And he's getting pulled in all kind of different directions to apply his voice talent in so many different ways. Yeah. He's such a great guy, and he's just one of the most chill guys you'd ever want to get to know. And so Dee Bradley Baker showing up later in the Cantina. And hey, hot off the heels of the season 1 finale, The Bad Batch, the timing is just perfect for Dee to sit down and have a couple drinks with us in the Cantina. So can't wait for that.
It's awesome. We got some headlines coming your way right now.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
All right, well, you know that the next thing that we're all waiting for on the Star Wars front, at least as far as Disney Plus is concerned, is Star Wars Visions. This is where the worlds of anime and Star Wars combine. And there was a new trailer. Now, we got a little sort of behind the scenes a couple of months ago as they announced that this was coming in September of 2021. But this is an official trailer, and they released 2 versions. There's a Japanese, and then there's an English a dubbed one. And what's unique about this, Jim, is Star Wars fans, we're used to seeing sort of the native English version being that's the source material, and then it's overdubbed for other countries. In this case, it seems as though its origin is that of Japanese, native Japanese, and the English version is the overdub. In this case, we're getting the overdub. So this trailer debuted both versions, and September 22nd is the date. You got a day of the week on that? I meant to look that
Wednesday.
up before the show. It's a Wednesday. Ha 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 ha.
Yes, sir.
The Wednesday. The Loki Wednesday.
Yeah. The Loki Wednesday. Yeah, right. So we're starting to see some of that stuff, that release schedule come to fruition now with the shift of Disney Plus launching fresh material on Fridays to Wednesdays. And so that'll be interesting to see how that works with our schedule here at Rebel Force Radio, because Fridays was perfect.
Fridays was nice.
Fridays was nice with the Saturday option.
Yeah, it was Fridays with a Saturday option. I like that. Now, I think you're right. You'd speculated. You said, I think this is all just going to drop in once. This is going to be one piece of content that's going to land on September. In September, we now know it's September 22nd, and I think that's right. So we'll plan something to get everybody together and just talk about it. There might not be much to break down. I don't think there's going to be in terms of canon.
I don't know. In terms of canon, perhaps no, but in terms
visuals?
of and maybe some hard-hitting storytelling too. Things in small packages that might pack large impacts. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they got. I watched the trailer earlier today, but I only watched it once, and they threw a lot at us in that trailer.
I got a beef.
You got a beef? Let's make a sandwich.
Okay. Well, I just got a little beef. I got a little beef about it. Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. I should save it for after the trailer.
Yeah,
we should watch the trailer.
Like, yeah. Don't pee in the pool yet. Let's watch.
Wait till later to pee in the pool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about. In addition to the trailer, we've got a breakdown of some of the voice talent, at least in the English speaking version, the overdub. And there's some familiar names here, guys like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah,
right?
Of course, everyone knows who he is, going back to 30 Rock from the Sun. Remember when he was a kid actor in that?
I do. I'll raise you your 30 Rock from the Sun to the Dark Shadows revival series on NBC.
Ooh.
He played one of the young. He played one of the young Collins boy. Bobby Moynihan, Saturday Night Live alum, and also an alum of other Star Wars projects, including Star Wars Resistance.
Yep.
Here's a big name.
Bobby certainly has made an impact on the crew who work on Star Wars animation, because he's popping up in just about everything. He's done some voiceover work for some of their virtual reality things and Galaxy's Edge and things like that, and including Resistance as well.
You may remember him as Drunk Uncle from Saturday Night Live. I think that was one of his characters.
I do know that guy. Drunk Uncle.
Here's a name every Star Wars fan knows: Tamora Morrison. Tamora Morrison showing up in this series as, you guessed it, Boba Fett
in a hot tub. New Zealand.
In the hot tub. Neil Patrick Harris, Doogie Howser.
Doogie Howser. And of course, Your Mother. And so many things. I see him in Bitcoin commercials now, where he goes to a Bitcoin ATM and purchases Bitcoin.
He's into the cryptocurrencies.
He looks at the camera. It's his best acting performance ever. He looks at the camera and goes, cybercurrency is cool. And I'm like, wow, what am I missing here? What am I missing out on here?
I feel bad. Where's Vinny? You remember his friend Vinny on the Doogie Howser show? Hey, Doog.
Never watched Doogie.
Oh,
I never watched Doogie.
Yeah, that was probably like early college years for you, probably.
No, I was a working professional at that time. I remember watching the first episode to pull some audio sound bites from it, but that was the only time I ever watched it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're old. All right, what else we got? David Harbour.
David Harbour from Stranger Things.
Yeah, David Harbour doing a voice here. Right? Yeah. He's Hopper. Hopper. He also played what's the name of that demon guy? The superhero, Hellboy. He did a Hellboy, not the Ron Perlman version, but he did a remake. Yeah, there was the Ron Perlman version, and then there was the David Harbour version, and then he's also in Marvel in the Marvelverse. Who is he in the Marvelverse? He's somebody in that Marvel cinematic universe. Who else we got here? George Takei. Oh my.
Ooh my.
Oh, you play Said Shu, aren't
I'm back
you?
in Star Wars.
Said Shu. Do you remember that was
Star Trek.
Crazy because he was in the Clone Wars film, the Clone Wars movie.
No. He was in season 1 of the Clone Wars.
Oh, he was Lot Dodd.
Lot Dodd, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's me.
I thought he was in the movie.
He was terrorizing those little lemur fellows. You remember that?
That's right. Oh, I think I got all. These are all the ones that I recognize, Jim. Is there anybody? Oh, Kyle Chandler. That name sounds familiar. I think that's an actor.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I
Henry Golding is doing a voice in this. He's from the film Crazy Rich Asians. Of course,
Wait a minute. Is that Snake Eyes? Is Henry? Yeah, Henry Golding is Snake Eyes in that. Kind of tanked, but still Snake Eyes.
Of course, Lucy Liu.
Oh,
very well known. Very well-known actress.
So there's certainly, Asian actors are aplenty, and why not? Because it is a mashup, if you will, of classic anime. And,
I will,
Star
as a
Wars.
matter of fact. Allison Brie, who was in Mad Men, is part of this show.
Who was Allison Brie in Mad Men?
I don't know. I just. Because you know why
I don't call you out. I just am like,
I never watched Mad Men. No.
Oh,
Wendy, she binged that whole series in like 3 days. I don't know how she did it. Yeah. But it was
she never slept.
She was mad. She was mad. I was the madman at the end of that. But I can't say this one is the biggest surprise of them all. And I was so happy to see his name listed among the cast. There's a guy named Mark Thompson. Do you know that name? Mark Thompson? Very familiar to Star Wars fans who are into audiobooks.
Oh my gosh. Like the narrator of so many Star Wars books. Wow.
He is the narrator.
Yeah.
He's probably narrated more Star Wars audiobooks than anyone. So, I'm so glad to see.
Did he do the Plagueis one?
No, that was a different guy.
That guy was good.
I can't remember. Yeah,
but Mark
he
Thompson's
was really
great
good.
too. Yeah.
Mark Thompson does the most of them. You know, he does most of them. So it's great to see him. Andrew Kishino, who is the voice of Saw Gerrera from the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Christopher Sean, who was the voice of the goofball from Resistance. What the hell was his name? The goofy protagonist of the show.
Chaz the Spaz?
Kaz.
Kaz. Oh, not Chaz.
Kaz, not Chaz.
You know, Jimmy
that's a
Mack.
flashback.
If you may recall, I think this was shared on the show for his birthday. For one of your birthdays, didn't you get a shout out?
From the Babu Freaks.
The
they
Babu
had,
Freaks, yeah.
Christopher Sean, the voice of Kaz,
Yes.
do a birthday shout out for me via Cameo.
Oh, right, a cameo.
I cherish that.
It's
That's
so
the greatest
great.
thing. And you know what? They did it as a joke to be tongue in cheek with me because I had been critical of the character. And the character is worthy of criticism, trust me. But man, did Christopher Sean win me over with that video, though. You know, when it becomes personal, then I change my feelings really
Now you're
fast.
rooting for the guy. You go back and you're like, that guy's not so bad.
I see Shelby Young in the cast list also. She did a voice in, I think, both Forces of Destiny and Resistance. And
Man, this is
others.
just chock
I'm just pouring
full.
through this. The episode, they break down the episode titles too. Tatooine Rhapsody has the most familiar American voice actors in there with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bobby Moynihan, Tamora Morrison, Shelby Young, and Mark Thompson. And so that's a Star Wars superstardom right there. And so, yeah, I think that's the extent of the voices I know. We do have some audio that was leaked to us from Skywalker Sound of Joseph Gordon-Levitt voicing some dialogue from Star Wars Visions.
I told those two, I said, this is a public beach, you can't park that shuttle here. But they just lit off toward the casino.
Oh, they just done it. I said, boy, I keep my feathers numbered for just such an occasion.
Yeah, we also have a clip of Christopher Sean from Star Wars Visions, also leaked to us from our Lucasfilm sources.
Jimmy Mack, how are you? Whether or not you recognize this voice, some people may call him the greatest pilot in the galaxy. I just call him Jimmy Mack's boy. That's right, the Jimmy Master's friend.
Oh, that's a gift that just keeps on giving, isn't it? It just never stops.
Oh, I haven't heard that in a while. That is
I just love this.
Jimmy Mack. Jimmy Mack.
In the Kaz voice, too.
I know,
Almost
it's
the Kaz
fantastic.
voice. Jimmy Mack's boy. Oh, boy. Yikes.
Should we watch the trailer? You want to do that?
Let's take a look at the trailer.
Okay,
this
let's
will be
watch
fun.
the trailer.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go.
Are we going to pause it if we freak out about something?
If you freak out, you say pause, stop the
you
tape.
do the same thing. You do the same thing because they throw a lot at you in this trailer.
Right, it is fast paced. It's only like a minute and a half. Here
it's
we
gonna
go.
be hard for us to narrate it for our audio podcast listeners, but we'll try, I guess.
All right, here we go. All right, so you can check this out. It's on YouTube, the official Star Wars YouTube channel. So here we go.
Long ago, a great warrior came to this village.
Look at that.
And entrusted
black and
our
white footage.
ancestors
I like
with
that
this. Its power and responsibility
animation
now lie with you.
It looks like you're the lightsabers in the little fancy box.
Yeah, just like the Galaxy's Edge. I wonder if she had to pay $200 for hers.
Well, there's one of the furries.
Furries confirmed. Visions. Look, stop!
You've been
Stop
guided
stop
the tape.
All right.
All right. We got
it's a stunning visual of a Star Destroyer over what looks to be a giant facility compound with smokestacks on the top of it and everything.
That's cool.
And what is coming out of the Star Destroyer leading up into
a very tall
or
ladder
leading down to the city. I mean, what is it? It looks like a ladder, or is it some kind of road? Because you see there's a road going up to the Star Destroyer.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Yeah, right. But I mean, that's a stunning visual, right?
That's
there
very, very cool.
In of itself. What we saw prior to this was primarily visuals that I would associate more with anime than Star Wars, outside of the lightsaber in the box, of course. But now seeing this Star Destroyer doing something here, what is going on here?
I don't know.
It has a bottom port opened, and it's crazy.
Sticking something into this planet. I don't know. I've never seen any kind of like apparatus hanging out of a Star Destroyer before.
No, it reminds me of some of the concept art or ideas from Colin Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates script with a Star Destroyer that was parked on Coruscant, which is a concept itself that goes back to the Michael Stackpole X-Wing books about a Star Destroyer that was parked underneath Coruscant called I think it was called the Lusanka, and it served as an Imperial prison. So General Dodonna was sent to prison there. And this Star Destroyer, they thought it was an actual like building, a facility or whatever, but they realized it was a Star Destroyer. And then eventually the thing rose up out of the ground, and it was just like a shock.
My grandma used to drink Lusanka. You know, instead of coffee, she would drink Lusanka.
I think I heard of that before. Maybe I got the name wrong. If it's a coffee, I could be way off. Yeah, it's a Star Destroyer called Starbucks. And it was there, and it was like, there were other Star Destroyers. One was called Folgers.
Forget Star Killer. We got Starbucks.
Yeah, well, you know how that goes.
Right. Okay, here we go. So that was very cool.
You've been guided
Disney
by the
Plus
Force
presents, and
since you were
there's the.
born.
I mean, that's the traditional kind of furry little anime
There we look at a scene.
Yeah, you know, this is something we haven't seen since Kylo Ren, which is the stopping of a blaster bolt. That's
right. The
seems to be what we're
ability to
looking
freeze
at.
a blaster bolt after it's left the blaster.
Yeah.
And this is a guy, there's a young girl on the ground, and she's tied up, and this guy is pointing his blaster at her, point blank range.
Yeah, it's like execution style.
Yes. And the blaster bolt is frozen in the air, much like Kylo. But as we watch, we see it's another Jedi. She's not a Jedi,
right?
The young blonde girl. But there's another Jedi witnessing this. And that guy pointing the blaster, he looks like an Inquisitor to me.
Yeah, he's bald.
You know,
he's got kind of a
pale,
yeah,
eyes and
pasty.
everything.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect an Inquisitor to be using a blaster, but who knows?
No, good call. We got 9 original stories, all corners.
The first time I've
galaxy.
confronted such darkness.
Now, wait a minute. I want to go back real quick.
Lots
here,
of stuff happening there.
A lot of stuff. When this sound, I know it's not, but this is a very Kylo Ren-y kind of line here. This guy in the delivery. Listen.
Confronted such darkness.
Hold on. I want to run it back here. What he said.
First time I've confronted such darkness.
I don't know, something about that. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of Kylo Ren. The first time.
And then
I've
look at this
confronted
Sith
so much
Lord
darkness.
emerging from his ship. It looks very similar to the Inquisitor's TIE fighter from Rebels. With the folded wings. It's landed there, and there's a Sith Lord emerging with a red-bladed lightsaber. Assuming he is a Sith, he could be an Inquisitor. And then after this, we'll see Boba Fett's ship, the Slave One.
Oh,
the Slave
dude, boy,
One.
look how fast that shows up.
Yeah.
The Slave One.
Right.
Now, this seems to be, I mean, as far as I can tell, in looking at the original, sort of behind-the-scenes video and now this trailer, that these are new characters. We're not talking about sort of anime treatments of classic characters, although, according to the cast list and what we see here, this is Boba Fett. We're seeing actual Boba Fett showing up here. So he may be one of just a few canonical characters that show up in this in these shorts,
and voiced by Tim
cool.
Morrison. And the next one we see is a bunch of shooting my favorite stun blasts Look at them.
Look at that.
Stun blades. And they're orange. Now, I assume that's the lighting.
Right. This looks very almost like Gendy Tartakovsky, kind of very simplistic, this design here.
Even more stylized.
Yeah, very stylized.
Gendy's. I mean, but like what you say, like stylized in a minimal fashion.
Right. Yes. Very
different
minimal.
look. But we know who they are. And then here's
Something
the Jedi
ancient.
freezing the stun bolts.
Freezing the stun bolts. There it is.
So that's going to be prominent in this series, freezing blaster bolts, freezing stun bolts.
Yeah.
In this next shot, we see, I think, the Sith
ancient.
Lord that we saw emerge from the ship with the red lightsaber.
Check this guy out with the.
Yeah,
he's got
he
like a
looks wicked.
metal beak / mouth with the red eyes. It's very Palpatine like.
And also reminds me of that metal face Jawa that we saw at the beginning of The Force Awakens, and then again in The Mandalorian. You remember the metal face Jawa? That's just what I call him. That little guy.
We didn't have names. We called him Metal Mouth.
Mark Hamill. That's how Mark Hamill describes being on the set of the original Star Wars. Yeah.
Lobster Man. Fish head. Oh, this looks very traditional Japanese. We got 2 red bladed lightsabers across.
Did you see that?
Death Star droid?
The Death Star droid with a Gatling gun. Wow.
Oh, man. Wow.
That looks amazing. All the animation I've seen from this particular short in this trailer, this black and white.
This is one to watch.
And it looks like very old school Japan. You know, there's some tech you can make sense of a little bit, but it looks like he's standing next to a starship or something.
This might be one of the shorts is titled TO or T0B1. I'm wondering if that might be the one.
That could be him.
His story.
Raising Hell.
Look at that.
But yeah, that's interesting. And then there's
sorry.
It looks like some okay, this is really interesting. If we can slow this guy, look at it. He's got at the end of his staff, he has a pinwheel, and at the end of the pinwheel are red-bladed lightsabers.
Look, those of you who love the double-bladed lightsaber, wait till you see this thing. This is how many lightsabers are there? It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 bladed lightsaber. I'll raise you at least 5 bladed.
We see also the staffs for another 3 at the bottom.
Yes, this could be.
And
an
it looks like a
8-bladed.
female Sith Lord who is wielding this extendable staff. You can see how it extends. So it must look like a regular lightsaber hilt, and then it extends out, and then it turns into a lightsaber pinwheel.
That is
That's
extreme. Awesome. That's extreme. That's unleashed. All right.
That is.
Look at that thing. September 22nd. Okay.
Okay. You saw those bird steeds walking as the sun was setting in the background. Now, that actually goes back to George Lucas's rough draft of Star Wars when there were bird steeds. They were like ostriches, big old ostriches, and that, the heroes would ride on them. Stormtroopers rode on them as well in George Lucas's rough draft.
Yeah, they're birds.
Ride them. The birds you can ride. Sounds awesome. Let's make it.
You got a saga. All right. Okay. And of course, we know this isn't Tatooine because it's one sun, not twin suns, though it does look sort of mountainous and desert-like.
We are going to be a proper family.
Oh, wait a minute. Did we see a couple of ATSTs here?
Yep.
Yeah, look at that.
And that
That's
looks
cool.
to be more of the similar minimalist style that we saw earlier with the orange stormtroopers. This appears to be part of that same. And look, the stormtroopers are marked with orange.
Yeah, they are.
So I'm going to stick with the fact we might be seeing orange stormtroopers in Visions. We've seen red stormtroopers. We've seen black ones, white ones.
Yeah. Familiar worlds. Now we're going to maybe see some pod racing here. So it's saying right here in the trailer, "Venture to familiar worlds." This looks like the pod race on Tatooine. Of course, it could be somewhere else, but it
looks like the
very
Mos
Tatooine.
Espa. It looks exactly like the Mos Espa arena,
Yep.
where the pod race were held. And but I think we're in for a surprise here. I think instead of gathering this audience to watch racing, they're going to be there to watch the rock opera Tatooine Rhapsody. And that's the and that's the
that's
episode.
The name of the episode. Yeah.
And
I'm just a poor slave boy.
Scaramouche. Watto's like, yeah.
Tatooine. I like it.
Tatooine. So you have a rock concert going on here, I believe.
Yes.
And I think we're going to see evidence of that as we tick along with the trailer.
All right.
There they are. And see, look, he's got a guitar. And he's
Oh,
jumping down
you're not
ready to perform.
kidding. You're not
And
kidding.
It looks like the strings are lasers.
Is that Walt? I'm looking right now. I see a young Rodian.
We see a Rodian.
Please tell me that's not Kitster. Just to the left of the Rodian? I mean, this could be
Kitster,
anime Kitster right here.
He's
Where's
got Kitster with
We
face
found
paint
him.
on. Yeah, this is rock and roll Kitster with rock and roll Wald. That's what the action figure will be called.
I got an
Rock
Ishii
and Roll
Tibbs
Kitster.
back there, I see.
Nice, Jason. There's others. That guy there, he's what do you call those guys? The one with the horns. He's down at the bottom. He's kind of orangish, brownish.
Oh.
All right, let's continue. Because we're going to see the guy then show up with his guitar.
Look at this. This has got to be Tatooine Rhapsody right here. What is going on with this? This is wild. This is crazy. All right. Now this is... Man, I can kind of follow, right? Okay, that's that one.
Star Destroyers again.
Yes. Girls walking around.
Now, we saw like twin embryos. Oh, there's an R2. Well, like, when
Where are
R2
these
puts his
embryos?
arm in the socket. Look at all of this. I mean, they throw so much at you.
Did I miss the embryos?
For the rest of it, just click and pause. Click and pause.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
There's the
look at this. Oh,
are they clones? Are they in a Bacta tank? Are these Sith acolytes surrounding?
I was just going to say acolytes. Yeah.
Wow, man. Surrounding two young twins in what appears to be a Bacta tank or a cloning tube of some sort.
Yeah, these are clones. These are little Snokes.
Little
Snokelings.
Snokelings. Little Snokelings. Available at Walmart this fall.
So much to see here. Oh, I wanted
that ship blowing up looked very much like the ship they have parked at Galaxy's Edge. I think it was called the TIE Defender. There's the little embryos.
The embryos you were talking
twins.
about. Okay.
The twins.
Yeah. And there was
and then the ship blows up, and it looks very much like the ship they have parked there at Galaxy's Edge that was edited out of.
Oh, I don't know.
That
who
looks
that
like.
is.
Well, he's like Crosshair, up in the. He's up in the crow's nest.
Yeah.
And he's picking on. That's definitely a sniper's rifle with a long. What do you call it? Shaft.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
A rifle.
The rifle. What do you call that?
The barrel.
It's, the barrel. Come on, Jason. The barrel. What are you talking about?
All right. Oh, yeah, I see. You got like an astromech, getting familiar with a computer terminal here.
Yeah, astromech arm plugged into a data port.
Right.
Much like R2 did.
Man, I wish I had like one of those thumb drives that was just like an R2 arm. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Like it worked.
Just plug in anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm just making copies over here. I'm just loading up these files. It's like an R2 arm. It's fun. We got some Force Lightning, maybe. Is this like an armless kind of Sith Lord here going on? What?
Oh,
no, that's not right. Oh, it looks like he's about to unleash maybe some Force Lightning here.
It looks like something happens to the saber. It looks like her saber shorts out to me.
Yeah,
and that could be what we're seeing, or we're seeing Force Lightning. Maybe Force Lightning shorting out a lightsaber. That is a weird looking character right there. That's a Sith Lord, and he looks really cool.
He's a Japanese Sith Lord.
I can't quite make out. No, maybe not Japanese, though. He almost looks like Nine Numb a little bit just from this angle, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's
He's looking very Japanese. He's looking very
okay.
Yeah, Mr. Miyagi to me.
Well, that's what you expect from anime,
right?
Back.
Oh,
there's
Jawa?
Boba Fett.
Oh, wait a minute.
It was
What do we see? What did we miss?
Boba Fett flying on his jetpack.
Look at
flying
that.
toward the camera.
Boba Fett.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good look at something we only got a brief glimpse at in the teaser trailer, but here we're seeing it really fully fleshed out. That looks great.
Look at
Boba Fett, jetpack, flying right at the camera, voiced by Tim Morrison.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm seeing, is this a Jawa? Maybe?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Oh, no.
No, Saber.
I just saw sort of a brown cloak here.
Right, it's a Jedi.
Oh, it's a Jedi. I see the lightsaber now. Yeah.
Green saber, riding a speeder bike through a snowy forest. Really excellent stuff. Great
I accept
animation.
this
There's
responsibility.
The furry. The furry accepts the responsibility. Oh, look at that. Now, interesting.
Oh, wait a minute.
We saw a bunch of it. It looked like Sith saber whips wrapped around a Jedi lightsaber, trying to prevent her from him or her from defending.
I see
themselves. Yes. So we've never seen anything quite like that. We've seen laser whips in Star Wars before. I remember Lamaya from the old Marvel comics had a laser whip. But where else have we seen laser whips? It seems like something almost recently had a laser whip in
whips. Well, I saw that in The Mandalorian, didn't we?
Did we see it in The Mandalorian? A laser whip? Or did we see it in Solo? Something that's like,
laser whip.
In it? I don't remember. But laser whips wrapped around, obviously.
They were in Star Trek The Next Generation. I
Stuff.
remember the Ferengi used to use laser whips.
That's right. And then look, this Jedi has a purple-bladed lightsaber. I'll be on the record as saying I don't like that. I think that Mace Windu had exclusivity on the purple-bladed lightsaber.
Yeah.
And
part of the
I don't
contract.
like seeing... I just felt like that was something very unique to his character. And I don't like seeing it appropriated for other characters. But Star Wars has a vast history going back thousands of years. And you have to assume that someone had a purple saber blade
Can't be the only one.
Mace. But that's just...
Star Wars Visions.
Yes.
September. Wow.
September
so cool.
22nd. Content drop on September 22nd. 9 shorts. We have no idea how long any of these shorts are going to be, but I wouldn't expect anything over 15 minutes.
Oh, I think less than that. I think we're looking at a 90-minute piece of content that's going to drop.
Total.
That's
So that would
what
be
I'm thinking.
Approximately 10 minutes per short.
Yeah.
The classic tradition of animation.
I hope that they
cartoon series. 10 minutes seems about right.
I would really like. I hope that some of the creatives and they are interspersed. Talking maybe between to create some context.
I don't want that.
I do. I do want that. Here, okay. Let me just throw something out here. All right. I'm going to watch this
in between. I think you're going to have to click on each one that you want to watch.
Oh, really? You don't
think
it'll be
you love the play all feature.
I want to play all on this.
Maybe you can. I don't want to say you can't, but just be prepared to hit the play button a couple times.
Okay. Can I give you my gripe now? I just want to give you my gripe. Can I give you my gripe?
Go ahead.
All right. One thing we know about George when he was creating the original Star Wars trilogy, was that he was purposely avoiding things in his mind. There's one thing about his goal versus the execution and how successfully he achieved it. But George was trying to avoid fashion. He was trying to avoid things that would make the material dated. He was making something that was universal. And my struggle with this is that it is so overtly Japanese that I feel as though it takes Star Wars and brings it down to earth to such a degree that I'm like, well, it's like Star Wars on Earth in Japan. Like you see like the sort of the
feudal Japanese,
yes,
which I picked up on here and there.
In you got the
Samurai
Jedi
stuff.
Master, the samurai. Now, again, clearly George Lucas borrowed from a lot of that stuff, but he certainly diluted it in such a way that it kind of he was constantly avoiding the entrapment of, oh, that's that or that's this, to the extent that he avoided zippers and buttons, famously pointed out by Paul Bateman on the show. So not that I can enjoy this, but it's like, hey, let's take Star Wars and let's bring it down to earth. That's my only hang up with it. It's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna give us lots of great conversation here on the show. But it's not Star Wars to me.
Well, it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be Star Wars anime.
Okay.
And I think this kind of goes along with the way that the franchise has been guided since the Disney acquisition, or even before that, since Kathleen Kennedy was put into place. She was always interested in experiencing and experimenting with different genres of Star Wars. She sent Gareth Edwards off to make a Star Wars war film. He came back with a war film. Not his fault, but they had to reshoot the hell out of it to make it a Star Wars film.
Right.
She sent Lord and Miller off to make a Star Wars comedy. They made a comedy, and I don't know what else they did, but they got fired very late in the game. I mean, that stuff blows up, this experimentation stuff. And so I think Disney Plus is a better place to experiment with Star Wars in this kind of fashion. And I also look at it as an attempt to connect with anime to be hip, because anime is very cutting edge these days. It's what fans of animation prefer. Manga is what fans of comic books are looking for nowadays. Manga is pounding DC and Marvel into the ground as far as sales go.
No, it's
and
terrible
popularity.
what's happening to DC and Marvel these days. It's just
well, that's just the evolution of things, and people are getting better stories out of manga and anime. And so
classic characters, they're basically licensed characters that they use for films and television, but the comic counterparts are really a shadow of what they used to be, at least in terms of the sales.
And Star Wars has a tradition of applying itself as far as animation goes to whatever is the popular format. We saw George Lucas experiment with Saturday morning cartoons back in the 80s.
Yes.
That was the way to do it. We saw George Lucas experimenting with cartoon cable networks, which was the way to do it in the 2000s. And now we're seeing Star Wars experiment with different types of animation formats, and anime is what is really hot right now. It's what people want. And so they're tapping into that, and I expect to see more of this kind of thing from, Marvel in the future. I think all eyes are looking at Star Wars right now to see how well this crossover pays off, and to take pressure off of us as fans. I don't believe any of this stuff is necessarily considered canon, although it can be expanded upon. Clearly, there's going to be a novel tie-in, a book called Star Wars Ronin, that's going to drop in October. That's going to tie into at least one of these shorts. So there's going to be an attempt to kind of find its own footing within the Star Wars.
By the way, that's the Duel, which is that's the one with Lucy Liu and Brian T, who plays a character named Ronin. That's the lead off short as part of this.
I wonder if that's that black and white one that I keep looking at.
I have a feeling that might be the one. Jaden Waldman is also in that. So it seems that's a good point you bring up. So there's a novelization that's going to tie into that.
Yeah. Yeah. But whatever. I mean, this looks like great stuff. Eye candy.
Yes, for sure.
And we might find some of the shorts really touch us in a profound way as Star Wars fans and consumer of media. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to breaking down each one of these shorts. We have an anime enthusiast in-house, Babu Freak's own Barry Harmon. I pulled the freaks, and they said Barry's the man.
Barry's the guy.
I think we're going to... I don't know if Barry even knows this, but we will be enlisting his services for our review of Star Wars Visions. And he can put a good anime spin on our review. And, of course, we'll add the old school Star Wars edge to the whole thing.
I tell you, my daughter, she's been a huge anime fan for a long time, and she watches a lot of the these anime soap operas. They exist. I didn't know that was a thing, but they kind of exist. So there's these animated series in anime style, and it's about these young crazy kids in love, and full subtitles, the whole thing. She watches all. I had to subscribe to some Japanese streaming service just so she could get more of her stories, as my grandma used to call them. So it's a big deal.
If you can search it out, there was a manga adaptation of the book Star Wars Lost Stars. It was a young adult novel written by Claudia Gray a few years ago. It put Claudia Gray on the map for Star Wars fans. And it's about, lovers finding each other. One is loyal to the rebellion. One is loyal to the Empire. And it's basically a retelling of the original trilogy through their eyes and their experiences.
Really? This is amazing. I need more of this.
It's a good book, and like I said, it's a young adult novel, and it's
right
very
up my
much.
alley.
A lot of people said it was like Star Wars Twilight kind of thing, with the relationships and the youth, and meanwhile you had the Galactic Civil War playing out in the background, so things are happening and the characters respond to it. It's a pretty well written book. I have to admit, I did like it when it was released. I did the audiobook, but there's a manga version of it, which I have not yet seen. And so that's my recommendation.
All right. Well, very cool. Yeah, so that'll be dropping towards the end of September 22nd. Star Wars Visions, very, very cool stuff. Real quick here, while we're on the topic of Star Wars, we want to get to Billy Mack's debut as Lando in this great fan film.
Well, it's not his debut as Lando, but it's Billy's fan film debut.
It's his fan film. That's why, it's fan film
It's his debut as a voice actor, proper,
not to be confused with his...
Because when he appears on Rebel Force Radio, he brings Puppet Lando with him. And Puppet Lando is an energy in itself, That's not Billy, Billy is just the mere
He's a vessel.
He's the vessel. We're going to start calling Billy the Vessel now.
Yeah.
Billy the Vessel Mac. That'll be his wrestler's name. But he brings Puppet Lando with him, and then Puppet Lando just takes over, possesses the whole room almost. But now this is Billy Mack as the voice actor, and we'll be hearing
this is a
of
tease
that coming up.
That's coming up. But since we're talking about the future of Star Wars, real quick, Taika Waititi, who we know is going to be helming a new Star Wars feature. This may be what brings Star Wars back to the big screen, although we've got the Rogue Squadron
that's definitely
movie
first.
that's going to be happening first. But Taika Waititi, and of course you know him as he directed an episode of The Mandalorian, also voiced I'm forgetting the
IG-11.
IG-11, thank you. But here's the deal: he just wrapped up the latest Thor film, Thor Love and Thunder, which clears his runway. So the next thing on his schedule is Star Wars. And so he talked to the folks over at Wired Magazine, and this is what he said about Star Wars. He says, it's still in the exterior space stage. Now, those of you who write screenplays, you know that that's sort of shorthand for, the very first thing that you would write as you're putting to a script. But he laughed and said, "We've got a story. I'm really excited by it because it feels very me." And when asked if this has been a challenge to marry his irreverent tone with the operatically sincere Star Wars, he says, "I tend to go down that little sincerity alleyway in my films. I like to fool the viewer into thinking, it's this. And then them going, damn, you made me feel something." So I bring this up because my daughter and I were going through all of the Marvel films in order.
A noble marathon. A noble marathon. For
we're having a
father
blast.
and a daughter to take together. It's great, man.
And we just watched Thor Ragnarok, and that is what really brought Taika to mainstream notoriety. Is Thor Ragnarok. And the thing that struck me about Thor Ragnarok was it is irreverent. It does play for gags. It does play for jokes, and not just jokes, but more modern, Family Guy kind of, just if you can imagine that. Reverent is a great word. It's not a classic way of telling jokes. It's a very, I don't want to say dated because it's very modern, but someday it's going to be considered dated way of telling jokes and gags. Now, what's interesting about it is that you don't hate it. You're watching the film. It feels very much like Thor. And of course, you got the Hulk in their gladiator style and all of this. But there are moments, personally speaking, where the jokes don't quite land. And I'm going to use a phrase, Jim. I know you hate this expression. So I use it sparingly. It takes me out of it. I'm going to use it sparingly, but it does sort of take me out of it. And it becomes almost, Kyle Newman is the guy that sort of taught me this phrase, which is self-referential, where it sort of refers to itself. So it's aware, the
self-aware,
It's self-aware. Yeah. And that's what struck me about Thor Ragnarok, having come through all of these Marvel films where it's just the universe. But in Thor Ragnarok, it's like we're aware that we're a comic book movie in this Marvel universe. Yeah. And most of the time it's very funny, but sometimes you go, man, not right now. I'm having fun. I'm in the universe. So I bring it up because I think that this is what we very well could be looking at with the Taika Waititi Star Wars, in the way that Star Wars Visions is a very extreme take of Star Wars. I wonder if the Taika Waititi is going to be, obviously not extreme in terms of anime and Japanese culture, but extreme in his Taika Waititi kind of way. The other thing to note is that he is a huge Star Wars fan. Yeah. So that's important, because is he self-aware enough to know that Star Wars generally isn't self-aware?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, he talked a little bit about his sincerity in the approach that he takes. So I assume that means sincerity with reverence.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't think it's lost on Taika what he's gotten himself into. And he does funny stuff, I mean, he has a career doing stand-up comedy. He was associated with the TV show Flight of the Conchords, which I really enjoyed. I directed a few episodes of that, 2 or 3 episodes of that. Of course, what we do in the shadows. Is it What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, which he's got a sequel coming up for that.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's a fabulous film. I mean, I saw that one twice. I enjoyed that one so much. And, of course, Jojo Rabbit, which got nominated for Oscars. So the guy, he's doing a lot of things right. His directorial run in that episode of The Mandalorian was spectacular.
Great.
Yeah, so I think we're in safe hands with Taika, but the comedy might come off much differently than George. And, George kind of took a cornball approach sometimes to comedy.
That's true.
So maybe having Star Wars comedy in the hands of a comedian Might be a good thing.
Right.
Because George did fill up the original Star Wars with lots of comedy.
He did.
And especially in the original film back in 1977, there's some just like really good, funny character moments in there. I always reference Chewbacca and his pounding on the walls and the doors of the garbage compactor, and the back and forth between Han and Leia. Even the Luke, I care. I mean, that's kind of funny. That's pretty funny in a subtle way. I mean, it's funny, but it's sincere at the same time.
I don't know. What do you think? A princess and a guy like me?
No. I mean, funny but sincere. Funny with a heart. And with Taika using the word sincerity, I really think that maybe he's on the right direction. This guy, he's a top-notch filmmaker. He just is. And
he loves Star Wars.
Yeah, sure.
He loves Star Wars.
Yeah, and he's funny and irreverent and stuff. So I think us here at RFR will welcome him with open arms.
So check out what's on his docket. So in addition to, he just wrapped up Thor Ragnarok. He is going to go into Star Wars next. He's got a sequel to What We Do in the Shadows. He's got an animated remake of Flash Gordon. He has two animated series of
Taika's doing that.
Taika's doing animated remake of Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Two animated series. Of course, Flash Gordon, huge impact on George Lucas, which impacted Star Wars. Two animated series of rolled doll stories for Netflix, and a live action adaptation of Akira. So, I mean, he's very much in demand. So
yeah. So let's
hopefully it all works out.
Whatever he spits out for Star Wars, maybe that might open up a whole series of Star Wars films for him. So.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of opening up a whole series of Star Wars films, as we said, Billy Mack making his fan film debut as Lando.
Yes.
Now, this is really cool, though, because for those of you who don't like to read, you can, yeah, right.
Raises his hand.
You can, of course, you can download the script, the Duel of the Fate script that was written by Colin Trevorrow, and who was his writing partner that was on that? Derek Conley. Derek Conley and Colin Trevorrow. So this was episode 9 before the J.J. Abrams episode 9. Right. Well, it turns out that a fan film was being worked on, and it was cast. It was a whole cast of action figures and voice actors. Jim, you know more about it than I do because I believe that you produced Billy Mack's. Billy Mack's session, I guess, voiceover session for this. But this is cool because it is an actual reenactment via action figure of that script. So, if you want to see it all acted out in front of you, why not? This is it's on YouTube.
Yeah, Lou Graziani's Industrial Magic YouTube channel is the place to find Duel of the Fates toy box. It's a recreation of Colin Trevorrow's unused episode 9 script being recreated by Star Wars action figures. And it's a hoot. And so Lou reached out to us and requested Billy Mack to voice Lando. And I asked Billy, and he said, sure. So he came over to my house, and we had a few laughs and turned on the microphone. And that was the same night we also did the, what am I, funny? What am I, a clown? I amuse you. I make you laugh. Yeah.
No, Tommy, my gosh. That goes back Tommy, that far.
You've got it all wrong. I love that. That's Goodfellas Uncensored. You can find it.
Yeah, that goes back a long time. So,
so it's been a few months. Yeah. I mean, this is no easy production.
Mm-hmm.
Lou is really putting a lot of work in it. And it's fun. I mean, it's just fun to watch Lou do this. Now, here's the story behind this. According to Lou, Toy Box, Duel of the Fates Toy Box is an adaptation of an early screenplay for Star Wars Episode 9 from late 2016, written before Carrie Fisher died this version gives us a glimpse of what might have happened to Princess Leia if things have gone differently.
Mm-hmm.
The early screenplay called Duel of the Fates was written by Colin and Derek, and I hope you enjoy this amazing alternate universe adventure. And what Lou says is why he had the inspiration to do this. Lou says, I had a great time reading this script with my family, acting it out with action figures as we read. It was so much fun that I decided to adapt the whole thing to share this great story with the world. So he's just sitting around at the kitchen table with Star Wars action figures, and he printed up the leaked script to Trevorrow's Episode 9, leaked by Colin, I believe. I have no evidence to prove that, but I'm pretty sure. But so
who else?
The thing leaked out, like at the beginning of 2020, I believe, shortly after the release of Rise of Skywalker, which was supposed to have been his Episode 9, Duel of the Fates. And Duel of the Fates includes a lot of cool stuff, as he says, like Carrie Fisher was much more prominent in it because it was written while she was still alive, and it includes a stormtrooper rebellion being led by Finn on Coruscant. It included Return to Mortis for the Star Wars characters. Rey, Luke Skywalker was much more prominent in the film. So Lou loved it and pulled out the script and made a whole fan film series about it. And you can find this at Industrial Magic, the Industrial Magic channel on YouTube. Forget the light. Industrial Magic on YouTube, and you can watch Lou Graziano's Duel of the Fates toy box. And you'll see Billy Mack, you'll hear Billy Mack channeling Lando, using the same force abilities Billy uses when Puppet Lando makes an appearance on RFR. Billy's tapping into those same force powers to channel the essence of Lando Calrissian. And Jason, I think you have the clip ready to play. It's in Chapter 6. And oddly enough, Billy shows up at exactly 5:01 into Chapter 6. He's the 501st, charging in.
A man in his element.
Leia.
All right, all right.
You shouldn't be seen here.
For your sake or mine?
Both.
Some kind of seedy bar.
The clientele are mostly first order, but what can I do? The grip of this empire is tighter than the last. Smuggling is a matter of life and death.
I need your help.
Leia.
We need ships, pilots. You know every smuggler in the galaxy.
Look, I promised Han I'd take care of you if something happened.
Oh, you take care of me.
I know you deserve better. But helping your new friends crash into the First Order's machine isn't what he would have wanted.
Lando, the galaxy needs you.
You're right. I'll be back.
Remind me never to make promises. You need to go. I can't protect you here.
Come with me. Fight with us.
We won a war once already. What good did that do?
We proved it could be done.
Leia, I would do anything for you. I'm sorry.
Rubs your cheek. And there she goes.
Ray,
takes off in the
help
ship.
us.
Oh, I love the ship with the fishing line. It's really well
good
done.
stuff, man.
It's
Yeah,
great.
it's
There's
fun.
a lot of heart and passion that goes into it, and it is ridiculous because they are action figures. But at the same time, if you want some visuals to go along with some of those words that you've been reading over the last year or so of the what could have been, what might have been with the Colin Trevorrow version of Episode 9, it's very cool. And our own Billy Mack doing it is makes it even cooler.
His voice acting debut on a fan film. So proud of the little guy.
Awesome. It's awesome. All right. Well, I don't know about you, Jim, but I'm thirsty. If you're thirsty, we might as well just head on into the cantina and chat with our pal, Dee Bradley Baker. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Star Wars Cantina.
Where are you going, Master? For a drink.
Sorry about the mess.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
Hey, there he is.
Dee,
the man of the hour.
Yes.
Yeah, there he is. Dee Bradley Baker. There's only one of you.
Tonight,
I thought there were several of you.
Does that probably surprises a lot of people?
Yeah, there's only one Dee Bradley Baker. I thought Dee Bradley Baker was at least 3 different people. Dee, Bradley, and Baker.
No, just a simple voice actor.
I'm not multiples. I just play them on TV.
Congrats on first season of The Bad Batch.
Thanks.
How awesome has it been? I mean, you know, it's your show really this time around. It's been incredible to watch you do your thing or hear you do your thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of me in it, but it's a large collaboration. Michelle does a fantastic job. I mean, there's Steve Stanton. There's There's a great cast involved, and then of course everyone at Lucas Animation. There's I think it's CG does the animation, and it's a vast collaboration. Even if it's a lot of me talking to myself.
Well, you do have one of the coolest end credits ever, which is Dee Bradley Baker as the Bad Batch. Like you don't even. It's just the Bad Batch.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'll ever see anything like this again in my life.
No one would be crazy enough?
Well, it's just such a unique project for me. You know, I got a great career going and been at it for a while, but I'm still, I still see myself as kind of a session player. Normally invisible, and if I'm doing my job, nobody thinks about me. I don't want anybody thinking about me at all. I want them just to think about the characters or the animals or creatures in the show. And so this is an unusual amount of spotlight. In addition to, more importantly, just the creative challenge of bringing these guys to life and making them distinct and really selling a story that's emotional and brings you along, and it's not just about moving chess pieces around on a chessboard or anything. It's a great story. Jen and Brad and Dave really did a great job in sort of bringing the last of George Lucas's creation and fingerprints to life. You know, because George was directly involved with the Bad Batch and the creating of the Bad Batch and the original arc that was not fully produced under him, but the vocal recording was done, and of course George Lucas was directly involved with all along the way with the Clone Wars, and this is kind of the this is the escape pod that made it from Clone Wars, you know. That's
and it also puts the final. It puts the Clone Wars to rest in many ways. We saw in season 1, especially with the destruction of Kamino. That to me does a lot to finalize the Clone Wars. And
it's a devastating visual finish to the whole thing. I mean, the end of the Clone Wars series that also had kind of a devastating visual metaphor for the curtain that was being brought down. But then this is the epilogue that we've seen, that is the finality, the destruction of the city, the obliteration of the entire creative complex that made the clones. It's an extermination of an entire machine that created humans.
Well, they're sort of hinting at what we can assume is going to be some sort of genocide. I mean, this isn't kiddie stuff. This is wiping out a huge population of people. And one of the things that we've been talking an awful lot about as we've been doing our after shows is, some of the moral implications and why something that we've brought up on the show is why perhaps have the clones that were in closest proximity to their Jedi generals, why have they, maybe more than the regs, been able or more comfortable kind of with their own individuality and that sort of thing? And we've kind of, pontificated a little bit. Well, maybe it's about the Jedi and the way that they see the clones. They see them as we learned in the very beginning of the Clone Wars with Yoda and Ambush, that they see them as individuals and, sort of extol the virtues of their individuality, whereas the other ones aren't as privy to that. Is that something you've ever given any thought to as to why there are certain clones that are more comfortable with their individuality than others?
Well, my reading of it, which really comes mostly from an interview of Brad and Jen, because they're the keepers of the kingdom of the words of the mythology at this point, for as far as Bad Batch is concerned. And the way that I understand it is that the chips are powerful, but they may have an uneven effect on efficacy on clones, and it also may not. It doesn't necessarily continue its influence. That it may dial itself back down, at least for some. But you're right. I mean, it's an interesting thought that there's a stronger relationship perhaps between a clone and a clone's Jedi, although, as we saw at the beginning of the Bad Batch, that didn't help much.
No, it didn't. It didn't. Well, the biggest surprise of the season has been Omega, no question about it. And I'll admit, I was one of those fans who saw Omega in the previews, and I said to myself, oh, dear Lord, there's going to be a kid character in this show. It's not going to have an edge. But as it turns out, the show did have quite an edge. And I was just wondering what your reaction was to Omega and what you witnessed in her as far as character growth throughout season 1.
Well, it's really all beautifully written, isn't it? It's a story that as you say at first glance might seem like you got something kind of treacly sweet coming at you, and yet you've got the final decline of the remnant of what was the clones and their whole world, their birthing chambers and all of that. So it's sort of the finish to that dark descent. And then in addition, you've got you've got something that's very interesting and very relevant, which is essentially democracy handing itself over to fascism. Trying to think of some examples that I've seen recently, which I'm being facetious. It's a precarious thing, democracy, right? And it happens as we've seen, and as we nearly saw, that democracy can hand itself over to an authoritarian regime, and that's what's happening here. And so, in the middle of that, and this isn't heavy-handed or too on the nose in terms of pointing to anything, but look, Star Wars is not just fantasy. There's real relationships. There's moral questions, and there's some larger themes that are playing out politically and militarily that I think resonate with people, and give it great meaning and great and make the human story of it far more interesting. Because you've got this, it's kind of a thrown together voluntary family set up with, it's almost like an adopted daughter. Mm-hmm. And yet she's not adopted, is she? She's the she's older than they are, and they are all family, right? They are family, literally. And so it's an interesting transition to see these armed special tactics guys who suddenly have to learn a completely new game. I mean, that kind of was their mojo, right? Is just you've got a tough situation that's odd or difficult or problematic in weird ways. You throw these guys in there, and they sort of improvise their way through it successfully because they're such a great team. And that's what they do, is they roll with it. And so that's what they're doing here, only in a completely different space, which is not just in the middle of the Clone Wars, where they're the special ops guys, but this is a transformation of the political structure that underlies the galaxy, and they're trying to find their place in that. But it's not just a matter of getting by or finding a new position, although Crosshair's doing that in a way. I mean, he wants to find a place that works for his skill set in the new order, and he wants to be a part of it. He doesn't want to be rubbed out, and destroyed. It's like he's smart and he can see what's coming, right?
Is it with Crosshair? Is your read that it is survival for him?
Well, ultimately, they're all survivors, aren't they? But his take is to go with what looks like is going to be the winning side, and then I mean, there's a rationality to what he's saying. It's not, he's not just this evil character. He's trying to find some place where they have some footing, and that they have some status, and it. I mean, if you think of it in terms of that, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just that the kind of moral compass that he has not is not awakened by the child, by the kid who's hanging around, as it does with the others.
I got to ask, because I'm so fascinated by the differences in the voices, and so I'm just curious. I would imagine that as you were building out the voices of the cast, that accent, that typical clone voice, the standard clone voice, is some sort of starting point or baseline. It's definitely a through line. And then how do you go about? How do you know how far you can twist it to where it still fits in the pocket of being a clone voice, but yet shows their individuality?
Yeah. Well, when we started with Dave Filoni starting to flesh this out, of George Lucas's idea of the Bad Batch, you start with the basic clone voice, which is sort of a I'll call it my version of that. Is it's like it's New Zealand, Australian, English, American hybrid, really, is what I finally arrived at. And then once you throw in these guys, the Bad Batch, it was clear that they needed to be further apart than that. And so what I chose to do was to keep it sort of in the UK, Australian world, but to branch off into, for instance, Tech and Crosshair are more proper British, or my version of that,
right?
Such as it is, and Wrecker is more Cockney, and then Tech, Tech is more, and then Hunter is more closer to a clone, and of course Echo is as well, and so that's the delineation as far as their accents and the sound of their voices that I tried to the dialect I tried to dial in.
And has Crosshair, that voice evolved since you sort of learned that he was going to be, for all intents and purposes, the villain of the series? Or did you just kind of luck out where you happened to play him with sort of a more snaky, sinister, I'm a 80s kid, so I get G.I. Joe vibes. So I hear a little Cobra Commander almost in that, and I mean that in the highest regard. But was it just luck that you sort of played him that way and then he ended up being the villain, or have you evolved it a bit?
Well, I mean, the way his character is set, he's originally at the end of the Clone Wars with the Bad Batch arc that they had, which was one of my favorite arcs. I even in the animatic form that they showed at Celebration a couple celebrations back is like, I love this arc. This is one of my favorites, actually. But
why?
I just thought it was great Star Wars. Just quite
you just
simply.
mean purely storytelling.
Yeah, just the storytelling. No, not because it was all me. Not because I was in it. I mean, that's fun, but it's like that's my selection of episodes that I like is not necessarily because I'm in them.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, from the beginning, Crosshair is the most. I mean, he's a sniper, right? That implies he's up on the mountain. He's up in the tower. He's far away from what is happening. So right away, his specialization suggests a separation from the group. And then that kind of laser precision, one shot, one thing that he does, there's a severity to that. There's a simplicity to that. And he's not surrounded by people. He's by himself. So right away, these things suggest a guy who's a little different in character from the rest of the team. That's where one's throwing something up and the other's jumping, and they're a little more collaborative in a coordinated.
Yeah, it's like they're
physical way.
synchronized, whereas he's doing their team sport. He's individual sport almost.
There you go.
Right. I mean, and they all certainly work together. It's really exciting to see that go down. But from the way that his character was kind of conceived and written originally, it suggested there's a resistance or a grumpiness, a difficulty, a solitary, just a solitude to the guy that would not make him Mr. Polka Dot and Moonbeams, Mr. Fun guy. He's not a lot of fun. Like Wrecker's fun, but not.
I like to hang with Wrecker, sure.
Wrecker, you want to hang with.
Beyond the accents, do you tap into any specific individuals, like maybe famous Hollywood personalities over the years, or for the individual characters of the Bad Batch? Would you mind telling us who some of those actors might have been to inspire someone like Crosshair, maybe?
Well, really, for Crosshair, there's a little bit of Hannibal Lecter in there.
Yeah, I hear it.
There's well, it's just that kind of deliberate, Clarice, that very deliberate, even unshakableness to him, and I mean, Tech is just he's very clipped and very precise, and he throws everything off. Nothing really affects him very much. And Wrecker's just a little boy. I mean, he's like a kid. Hunter's got there's something kind of smoky and mysterious about him. He's also not, I mean, the brightest character in terms of just the tone is Wrecker. He's like we said, he's the most fun. But actually, it's funny that you mentioned it. This is very silly, but it amused me because I was listening to my playlist of songs that I like, and one of them is the Time Warp.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, and I was listening to it, and I was thinking, it's astounding. Time is fleet. I was like, holy crap. What if Crosshair sang the Time Warp? So wait, who's the woman with Ventress?
Yeah.
Wow. And you listen through it, and it's like, oh, that's perfect. That would be awesome.
Somebody get Nika Futterman on the phone.
Yeah.
We need to get you guys in a recording studio ASAP.
Yeah. And she could do Cy Snoodles,
Well, I was walking down the street just to happen to think when to think of a guy who's being an Evo wing.
That's Cy Snoodles right there.
Holy cow.
And then it's just a jump to the left. Probably Yoda. I mean, that's all very silly, but to me,
that would be great.
Can you
work on that maybe for Halloween?
No, I gotta.
He's too busy.
Does that put Wrecker singing "Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul"?
Yeah. Wow, you recast the whole movie with Star Wars characters, I guess.
Yeah.
Wrecker
It's a horrible idea.
Wrecker kind of had a trademark when he was really pumped up about running into battle or he blew up something or something. He'd always say, "Oh yeah!" Kind of like, the Kool-Aid guy a little bit. My impersonation is like the Kool-Aid guy. But was that something you guys came up as an ad lib, or was that in the script? Because you really embrace that, and I heard that same "oh yeah" delivery about 3 or 4 times in season 1.
His original opening line, I believe, was "Make a hole." And I don't know if they kept that, but
we have to look it up.
I tend, especially with Wrecker, I tend to improvise around what is written. Sometimes I'll bother, Jen and Brad and change a word up here and there. And I might rephrase it, but generally the words are great and don't need to be changed at all by the actor. But I do add seasoning before and after to kind of add to the realism of the interactions, and they do keep a fair amount of, especially of what Wrecker's doing, of the riffage that I throw out there.
Speaking of Wrecker, I would assume that voice probably takes a little bit more toll on your voice and your throat than some of the others. Do you save your Wrecker stuff, or do you always, deliver or record those scenes in sequence, as the conversation is evolving according to the script, or do you have some ability to say, let's save the Wrecker stuff till, the end or something?
Right. I try to do them straight through, if at all possible, especially if it's all conversational, then we just do it straight through. But if it's yelling, if it's in battle yelling and that kind of stuff, then it's generally a better idea to put that at the end of the session. So we'll do at least, it's not all episode. There's not an episode where it's just all yelling. But the ones that do have the battle with Wrecker, we might sprinkle that at the end of the session rather than straight through.
Do you guys do the full cast recording for Bad Batch like you did with Clone Wars?
Well, they try. Let's see. There's in the days of COVID, it's not always everybody together. I mean, it's more efficient for the actors just to have me do my stuff, and if they can. They get Michelle in on that as well, but that's difficult because she's on the other side of the planet, and the timing doesn't always work out with her work and her family and all over there. And she's mostly the one that I'm interacting with. I mean, sometimes we've had Ray Perlman, who does Sid. We've done that a couple of times, I think. But mostly the Bad Batch is talking to themselves or to Omega. They're not like hanging out with the evil guys or with a lot of other interesting stuff, which is part of why it's fun for me to actually see the shows, because I've not seen the shows when they aired them. Yes. So every week I'm waiting to see what happened because I hardly remember it, and there's much of it that I was not a part of, so I wouldn't even have anything to remember.
Do you use any kind of video conferencing or anything so that when you can hook up at the same time, you can at least, is it easier to play off of each other, or does that, Okay.
Yeah, it's done over Zoom.
Oh, wow. Really?
It's done over Zoom, and then I record my session on Twisted Wave. It's an audio recording software, and I upload it to them, and they just chop it up and put it together. I think they record the session over Zoom, but that's just kind of as a temp. So I'm recording the master recording here on my machine, in my garage, in my studio.
Amazing.
Did you know about the Bad Batch eventually evolving into a series when you were recording their episodes for season 7? No. So what was your reaction like when you were told about it for the first time?
Well, I mean, that's a dream. It's a dream. It's a dream to be, a kid who was into Star Wars when Star Wars originally came out. Yes. To be in the Star Wars universe, to be a part of that. to begin with, just to be anything in it alone, and then to be a significant role that is an interesting acting exercise, an interesting creative challenge. That's really exciting as well. But then to make, for them to say, yeah, what you did on this particular arc here, we like this so much that we're going to make a series out of it, basically, with you talking to yourself. I mean, that there's nothing to compare that to. I've never had anything like that, and I don't think that I ever will again.
Wow.
Who knows? But it's it's such a triple whammy of awesome that
actors.
I was floored. I'm not surprised, but it's like I can't tell if I just really like these guys because I perform it, and I think that's kind of cool. But it's like, no, Dave Filoni and Disney and others, they think that's a cool idea too. So great, let's do it.
Well, you see these movies with these old-timey actors saying, it's a really meaty part. I got a meaty part. And I think about you in Bad Batch, and it's like, not only do you have a meaty part, you've got multiple meaty parts.
Yeah.
It's
right.
It's got to be amazing.
It is. It's dramatically interesting, acting. It's acting. It's straight ahead acting, actually.
Yeah.
And, at least half of what I do is not like that. It's a very different kind of acting where it's animals and creatures. I'm the rat in the Suicide Squad. Actually, I'm all the rats, but I'm Sebastian the Rat. And Shang-Chi, the Marvel superhero movie, there's this really weird creature in it, and I'm also that. So I'm usually just doing the weird stuff. But here it's like, nope, this is the most straight-ahead thing I will ever do.
Dee, I tell you, I hear your voice every single day of my life because my kids are the biggest SpongeBob SquarePants fans on the planet. So I'm
There's a lot more SpongeBob coming. They're going to be very happy.
I mean, they're
like
into
3
the camp
shows right now.
Oh yeah, the Camp Coral and the Patrick Star Show. I mean, anyway, not to derail, but I'm constantly hearing it. I'm like, that's Dee.
Well. Yeah, I mean, those are great shows. I'm not just saying it because I'm on them. I think they're genuinely funny. The storyboards that sort of lead the way on that kind of animation, they're great. They're still very funny, very edgy, fresh, and really sharp and funny. They're very funny. They're very cartoony. Very broad, it's like vaudeville on acid.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's just they
it's
go
the
really far with
closest thing I think we have to the classic Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny cartoons of the 40s and 50s. I think it's the closest.
Right,
we've got.
Which was the logical extension of Buster Keaton and vaudeville and that kind of a thing.
Yes,
they were pushing that kind of visual comedy, which really you can track that back to like Aristophanes and Commedia in Italy. I mean, just really broad, playing to the cheap seats comedy.
Right.
And
wow.
and Keaton and others really developed that visually back in the 20s and 30s in really brilliant ways where you look at it and it's like that's a live action cartoon what they're doing right there.
Yes. Right.
What we now understand as a cartoon, which was kind of fulfilled with Looney Tunes, with doing that kind of, I mean, Duck Amuck it might be the most prominent example of just visual comedy. I mean, you're playing with the dynamics of vision to make it funny. And and so that's I mean, how much further can you take that? Ren and Stimpy, maybe? A show I was on, Cow and Chicken. It's like they go pretty far, and there's, it's out there. It's way out there, and that's exhilarating. And SpongeBob is in that lineage. It very much is in that lineage, and that's part of the fun. It kicks my ass vocally, but it's great fun to just scream or just to yell or to do really just kind of violent physical voice acting. I mean, it's again, it's very. It couldn't be more different from Star Wars.
Oh, it's so different.
That's why you're such a chill dude all the time, is because you get it all out of your system behind that microphone.
Yeah, I got to charge up my batteries for the next round. And my voice.
You know, you brought up Warner Brothers, and, you know, Mel Blanc, he was a one-man cast. And in many ways, sir, you are the Mel Blanc of The Bad Batch.
Oh, well, that's a nice comparison. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, he was a really versatile guy, really funny. And he comes from vaudeville and that kind of performing as well. I would have wished for his generation of voice actors to have the kind of broad palette of styles and genres that are now in play. Because back then, cartoons were cartoony. Right. And, you know, about as tame as you get is like maybe the Flintstones or kind of the animated sitcoms of the day. But those were still pretty cartoony. But they didn't have like straight ahead stuff like, you know, there certainly wasn't anime, there wasn't Clone Wars. I mean, there's just so many examples. You know, Death and Robots. You know, that's just
now you got me thinking of what a Mel Blanc drama would be like, or if he really got to sink his teeth in, because we know that great comedians often turn out to be some of the best dramatic actors.
Oh, yes.
There are.
You can't... I think you can be a good dramatic actor, a straight-ahead actor who doesn't do comedy, but I don't think you can do comedy well without being a good actor.
I think you're absolutely right. I do want to ask, since you've had such a long history with Star Wars, and being involved in multiple series, what's been the biggest surprise for you with this particular series? What has surprised you in terms of maybe fans or what's been different this go around?
The thing that's most surprising is the thing that's the most heartening, is that Star Wars, you know, George Lucas's original ideas still thrive in fresh soil with fresh ideas, with new writers, new directors coming in that are still connected to his creative lineage, I would say, directly through Dave Filoni. But that those ideas still find such fresh and interesting purchase in the soil of the 21st century. Every time I see it, it's like, they did it. They really, I mean, I wish I were 10 years old. I wish I were 10 years old and watching The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch and The Clone Wars and waiting for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I mean, it's like, this is not just spinning off a derivative of a derivative into just blandness. That's just money-making blandness. It's keeping vital a really interesting universe with good writing and good an entirely good investment in really top people to make it interesting and fun and what it deserves to be, without being merely obedient to what it was. They're taking it in avenues that are fresh and new and different, but really great entertainment, and still, there's still what Star Wars was, which is there's an epic story playing out, but it's a personal story playing out that grabs you and that holds you and that makes this mean something. Whether you're talking about soldiers or you're talking about a family, this is what makes it really good, is the attention to the important stuff in telling epic storytelling. You know, and happily, after Disney took over, the franchise very quickly landed on its feet and just kept going. And I think they're just making everybody, you know, I can't imagine how you cherry pick the people to do this and make this kind of a thing go. That's not what I do. I'm a gun for hire. I'm like Crosshair maybe. But the people that put that kind of stuff together, they have the right idea and the right touch to make it relevant and to make it probably more relevant and more awesome than it's ever been. And I, as I said, I envy the kids. I envy everybody. I envy coming from an old fan. I love it. I'm excited about it. But I envy those who are just coming online with it. It's because there's so much
we can't
more
wait for
fantastic
season
stuff coming.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say, we can't wait for season 2. Congratulations. And was that always the plan to drop a season 2, or did you find out late in the season?
I knew about that. I mean, we once we finished with season 1, we just kind of kept going. I think, I mean, this is all speculation on my part, but I think that the folks at Disney saw how it was going, and they just said, yep, more of that. Because, you know, one of the great things about these days and all the streaming wars and everything that are playing out is that good content is king. And, you know, there's 500 things to watch. What are you going to watch? The good stuff. What makes it good? What makes it good? Good writers, great creative teams, top creative people and technicians, and taking interesting chances, not just replicating, not just photocopying what was done, but taking interesting chances in interesting directions, which Star Wars is doing, Marvel is doing. And there's a lot of other examples as well. You can go back and do the same thing that used to be done and maybe try to do exactly that, but fresher. There's examples of that are good, that are okay. But for my money, I think it's more impressive to see like what's happened with Star Wars. I mean, there's a lot of innovation and which comes, I think, from it's a courage that comes from creative confidence that is well-founded.
Dee, one final question here for you. What's been fascinating to watch as a Star Wars fan is how the animated universe and the quote-unquote live-action universes, they've combined, they've congealed. It's one big universe. And we do this Bad Batch after show every week, and we take live calls. And I would say every week, without fail, there's some caller that says, when the Bad Batch, they're going to show up on Kenobi, or the Bad Batch is going to show up on this. And so what's interesting is how there's no line anymore between, well, this is animated, this is live action. These characters are just part of the universe, period, regardless of the medium. How does that make you feel about the possibility and the fan support about seeing some of these characters that you've helped create showing up in one of these other projects?
Well, really, from the get-go, from the Clone Wars on, I think Star Wars is conceived of as a cinematic story. And the people that are creating it are people who make the movies. Joel Aaron and everybody else. I mean, they make Star Wars movies. And that's what they were doing with Clone Wars, was making a weekly movie. And so, and even with Mandalorian, every episode of that's a movie as far as I'm concerned. I don't think of it as television, but it really opens up the definition of what television and streaming and media consumption is. That it's not just in movie theaters. That the home can be a kind of movie theater as well. You don't just have to have one or the other. I don't think it's binary. I think both can still coexist very happily, especially once we get COVID a little bit more under control. Because it's a different experience, I think, to experience it publicly in a theater, something that's made to be on the big screen. And there's still a lot of really great stuff that's coming out that's made for the big screen, thankfully. I can't remember the point of what I was going for in any of this.
Oh, just about how you might feel if these characters that you've worked so hard to create would show up in live action form and maybe even be acted by other people. That there's something sort of bigger than just the initial debut of them and that sort of thing, because we've got people listening to watching the show, calling in our show saying, well, it's like they don't even think about it. They go, well, of course, if the Bad Batch, when they show up on Kenobi or they show up on this, it's so interchangeable now in their minds.
Well, I think I love that idea. I think it's really it's really cool. It was so exciting to see Ahsoka, and to feel that there is this kind of continuity where any of these characters can step into one sort of rendering or another. And as far as other people portraying the characters, of course, I didn't originate the clones, and Tamara Morrison did brilliantly. And I don't feel, even with things that are more, I've kind of, right away I kind of bent it my own way, as did really everybody in the Clone Wars originally right out of the gate. And even more so, much more so with the Bad Batch. But ultimately, I know people appreciate me for my involvement in my part, which I don't want to dismiss that. I think it's important and central. Maybe linchpin, I don't know, but I don't own the Bad Batch, and I'm just an actor. I'm just a voice actor, and it's something that you hand me the script and I help to tell your story. That's what I do. I don't create the content. I don't create the intellectual property. What I own is a piece of my performance, really. But the character is for the creative machine to do with as they will. So that, I'm not really quite sure what my point is, other than it would be great to see any of the clones that have never been seen before in the feature films, or any of the Bad Batch. To see them live action, that would be. I think that'd be really exciting. I was very excited to see Boba Fett, in The Mandalorian. That's very exciting to me. So I would be very, very excited at that prospect.
How about it?
Even
Maybe
though I
Captain
probably wouldn't be
Rex
involved
would
with it.
pop up.
Well,
Rex could
maybe
pop
so,
up,
but Rex would be Tim Morrison. It wouldn't be me playing that. I would. I look more like a clone now than I would in clone armor. In clone armor, I would look less like a clone than I do right now. So I'd be a very different character, I think.
Well, you've been very kind to take some time out. We know you're very much in demand these days, but we couldn't let this season wrap up. We've been covering it nonstop and cheering you on and cheering the show on, and I can tell you that fans are digging it, and we love where it's going, and we're excited for more, and we're so happy that there's going to be another season.
I am so happy for the fans and you and me too. But I'm very happy. Star Wars, I think, is in very good hands, and really great, interesting, creative minds are applying themselves to it right now in various realms. So it's going to keep coming, and it's very exciting.
Well, we couldn't be happier for you and for the future of Star Wars and the Bad Batch. So thank you so much, Dee Bradley Baker, for joining us. And
my pleasure.
Hopefully we can chat again before season 2 kicks off.
Yep, I should be available for that. Sounds like fun.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
All right.
Dee.
All right.
Thanks, Dee. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
May the force be with you.
Thank
and
you.
with you, son.
Chewie, get us out of here!
Oh, that's going to wrap things up here this week on Rebel Force Radio. Wow. Dee Bradley Baker, he is literally all the clones and certainly all of the Bad Batch. And as we know, a guy that's very, very much in demand. And so for him to take out the time and hang out with us, very much appreciated. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you, sir.
DBB.
DBB. Yeah. Don't forget, if you'd like to see what you're hearing, you can do that. Just join us over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio and join at the All Access tier, and you will actually be able to see video of the show that you're listening to right now, which is a lot of fun, especially on a show like this week where we've got the Billy Mack fan film, and we've got the little commentary we did for the Visions trailer. So very cool stuff. You can get that by becoming a member of us, of our Patreon supporters. at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. In addition to the full show video, you also get things like the RFR Comlink, RFR Q&A, the Babu Freaks, Clone Wars Declassified Remastered, and the exclusive home to the Star Wars Oxygen Archives, and so much more. That's only, these are podcasts. You can't just go to your podcast catcher of choice and subscribe to those podcasts. These are only available through the Rebel Force Radio Patreon. In addition, when we do our live shows, like our after shows, we've got a live show coming up later on this month. You can jump to the head of the queue. If you're going to call into the live show, like the Bad Batch after show and all that, you get, if you identify yourself to our call screener as a Patreon member, we're going to make sure that you get on. And it just really is such a great community of Star Wars fans and supporters of the show. It really is the greatest community of Star Wars fans in the galaxy. People that just want to talk about Star Wars for being Star Wars. None of this garbage that sometimes sort of bogs down our chatter about these sorts of things. So all that can be found at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. And we couldn't do the show without our friends at Patreon. Our friends at Indeed.com, make sure that you check out Indeed.com/Rebel Force for your free $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade that job post. Indeed.com/Rebel Force. That offer is valid right now. Indeed.com/Rebel Force. Also, if you like to play with us in between shows, we love to get that email and that voicemail. The email address is show@rebelforceradio.com. The voicemail line 708-320-1RFR. That's 708-320-1737. You can follow us on our social media channels like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And there is an official Rebel Force Radio Facebook group that you can join. Just a few simple questions to answer, and you will prove yourself worthy, and you'll be inducted into the group, and you can chat with, as I say, some of the best Star Wars fans out there. And the official website for all things and everything Rebel Force Radio, rebelforceradio.com. That's where you can check out the episode archives. We got links to news and merchandise, Rebel Force Radio merch. You need a t-shirt, you need a hat, Rebel Force Radio, say it loud, say it proud. You can get that at rebelforceradio.com. And don't forget about Rebel Force Radio on YouTube. It's the fastest growing outlet for Rebel Force Radio content, youtube.com/Rebel Force Radio. It is a virtual archive of RFR content. We got 15 years under our belts, guys. So if you're looking for that interview, if you're looking for that special moment that you remember on Rebel Force Radio, chances are you can find it over on the YouTube channel. From classic interviews, parodies and bits, to the latest live stream. All of our after shows are over there for The Mandalorian, for The Bad Batch. We just wrapped up. We looked at every episode of The Bad Batch as it was released, took live calls. So if you want, if you're just going back in, if our Dee Bradley Baker interview inspired you to go back and take a look at Bad Batch, make sure that you follow it up with the Rebel Force Radio Bad Batch After Show. And new full show audio being released sort of in real time, as it were, on the YouTube channel. And it's kind of fun, Jim, because you release the show, it goes out, it premieres live, you listen to it, you're listening to it with other Rebel Force Radio listeners. Sometimes you jump in, sometimes I jump in. It's cool.
Yeah. We're targeting, we've been doing Thursday night releases. And as we record this show, I don't know if we're going to stick with those or we're going to go back to Friday. But maybe we'll stick with Thursday. What the hell? It seems to work with a lot of people. So they tell me in London, hey, we love the Thursday night releases because that's our Friday morning.
Oh, well, there you go.
Helps them kick off the weekend Star Wars style. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, we're just over 10,000 subscribers over on YouTube. And, as we've been telling you for years, and it remains the case, we are the #1 Star Wars podcast in all of the galaxy. And we'd love to be the #1 Star Wars YouTube channel. So make sure you go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll find out when we release new content over there, including when we're about to go live.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, if you're sitting there saying, "Oh no more Rebel Force Radio live," you'd be surprised. It's coming up. So make sure that you're checking us out on those social media channels. But above all, the only thing we can really ask you is just keep listening. Keep listening to Rebel Force Radio. We love it. We love to have your subscriptions. We love to have your reviews of Rebel Force Radio on your podcatcher of choice. Just one rule, please.
Make them good.
And we're streaming 24/7 at podcatchers like Apple Podcasts, WGNplus.com, Jedi News, iHeart, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere you can find podcasts. And as I said, YouTube, also a great place. So we'll see you next time for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mac.
And remember,
The Force will be with you, always.
Rebel Force Radio.
Some people may call him the greatest pilot in the galaxy. I just call him Jimmy Mac's boy. That's right, the Jimmy Maxter's friend.